Confidence is one of the most discussed topics when it comes to dating and attraction. However, a lot of people underestimate the importance of confidence when it comes to career and business success. And confidence is the foundation and step zero for each career and business success. However, it is not what most people picture, but most importantly, it is not developed the way most people think it is. A lot of people, coaches, trainers teach confidence on an intellectual level. However, confidence is a state and mindset that is developed first in the body. And if it's not in your body, it's not genuine confidence. When we speak of confidence, some might picture someone in front of, let's say, 1,000 people speaking about their game, about their business, and explaining they're the best in what they do. This is not necessarily confidence, and sometimes overinflated ego mistaken for confidence could lead to us not developing and not improving. And I'm going to go through the importance of always improving yourself later on in this video. Some people, or even a larger group than the first one, picture confidence as someone standing up in front of a large audience and being vulnerable and sharing their mistakes. This alone doesn't mean they're confident. Probably they've just practiced a presentation in which they're vulnerable because it's so trendy to be vulnerable. So in this video, we are going to do two very important things. The first one is get an operational understanding of confidence. What does operational understanding mean? It means an understanding that will help you move forward, that will help you improve. Not just knowledge, not just information, a framework that can help you evaluate where you are with self-empathy and define where you want to be and give you a roadmap of how to move there. And then we are going to discuss how to develop confidence as a state in your body. And in this second part, I am going to give you a roadmap which you can choose between 7, 14, or 21 days to boost your confidence. And this roadmap will be linked in the video, in the description of this video, because honestly, nothing changes just because you have an operational understanding. Yes, it helps you move forward, but what really yields great results is you doing action. So in all of the videos that you're going to watch, that I produce, you are going to have those two elements, operational understanding and a roadmap in the comments. Now, let me say something super important. When we speak of confidence, the best metaphor that I have used with my clients, with working with over 400 clients over the years and over 3,000 people in workshops, conferences, trainings, and guest events, is the metaphor of the river. So imagine confidence as a river. When you are born, this river simply flows. There are no obstacles. And as you grow up, certain messages, certain experience from people you love, people you want to belong to, and also people from whom your survival depends, kind of put obstructions to the flow of this river, like a bend. And you reach a state in your life where this river is no longer flowing. So when it comes to improving your confidence, it's not improving something that you don't have, because innately you have confidence. Rather, it's taking out the obstacles that prevent the natural flow of confidence. I've mentioned my work with individual clients and groups, but something else that I want to share before we move on, that as a transformational and career coach, I do something that I feel is very important. I do structured focus groups, structured surveys, but most importantly, I work with people as an experiment and I track their results over time. So it's not just my work with clients and groups, it's also that I set aside a lot of time and energy to do focus groups, to explore which techniques and which methods work. I document this. Soon this will become part of my PhD lab, hopefully. And I have a lot of data of what and how works. Now, let's dive into the topic. Today, I have 5 super important points for you. I will start with the very interesting and peculiar story of Elena, a 13-year-old girl, and how we can see confidence in progress and in development in childhood. And this story is very, very representative of what confidence is. It happened over 20 years ago, and I still remember it as if it was yesterday. I believe this is the story that really drove my work on confidence, including the focus groups that I mentioned. So after the story of Elena, we're going to look at all the aspects of career and business success and confidence, which is getting investors, getting a job, getting a promotions, getting partners to work with you, getting clients, getting sales, and most importantly, improving yourself, because this is super, super important and very much underestimated. So after we look at the different aspects of confidence in career and business success, we're going to look at the confidence formula with the 3S: self-love, self-worth, and self-image. Then we're going to explore each of these elements one by one, and finally I will give you a roadmap of how to use the 3S formula to improve your state of confidence. Let's dive into it. So I'd like to start with a story that happened over 20 years ago. And before I do, I would like to make a disclaimer. When I narrate this story, or when I tell this story, it's not about looks. It's definitely not about looks. It is a story that makes a very important point, and it's not a story about how a young girl looks. It's more a story of how everything we believe about confidence is actually wrong. So 20 years ago, I would go, actually more than 20 years ago, obviously, even 30 years ago, I would go with my family to the seaside. And in Bulgaria, there was this concept that there are some hotels which are reserved for people who work in certain companies, kind of a post-communist idea. So long story short, we would go to the seaside every year around 15th of June. And one year, when I was in 7th grade, about to be 8th grade, during the summer, we arrived at the seaside in June 14th, which was one day before our shift started. And there were only two other girls at the same time at the hotel. These were Hope and Elena. The first time I saw Elena, I was a bit worried. I thought that the other kids who would come to this hotel might bully her because she had a lot of pimples and she had cellulite. And this is really not about looks. And I believe Elena grew up to be a very beautiful woman, but she had everything that one would think would draw bullying to her. On the other hand, I was a bit jealous of Hope. Hope was at the age of 14 already a model for the only modeling company in Bulgaria. Not only this, but Hope also won some math competitions at national level. So on the 14th of June, I went to bed a bit jealous of Hope. Fast forward, the other kids came, the other guests of the hotel came, and we kind of formed this group of kids. And my surprise was amazing. And I was so surprised that I think I've been surprised up until I got my first neuro-linguistic programming. I expected that kids would bully Elena because she didn't look so great. I also expect that everyone would be in love with Hope because she was not only a miniature Cindy Crawford, but she was everything you wanted to be in the 90s. She was a model and she was a math competition winner. Oh my God. What was my surprise when I realized that every single kid, boy, girl, was immensely in love with Elena. She would propose some super stupid challenges or some dull games, and everyone would want to do what she proposed. All the boys were in love with Elena, and it seemed like no one was really noticing Hope. It got to a point where I went on a walk to the nearest town with my parents, and my mom told me something along the lines, "You need to smile more like Elena and you would be more liked." And I'm like, oh my God, my own mother prefers Elena to me. This is not a story about looks, and this is not a story about popularity. Actually, this is a story about a superpower that I then absolutely misunderstood and greatly underestimated. And this is the power of confidence. Now, Elena was very confident, but she wasn't confident as someone who would go out and say, "I'm the best, I'm the prettiest, I'm the greatest." Her presence at age 13 and the way she just moved through the world, communicated self-love, communicated confidence. She absolutely loved herself. And she felt a bit like Amy Schumer in I Feel Pretty. It was as if the way she looked on the outside was completely incongruent with her self-image. I'm sure that in her head she saw herself as super beautiful, and actually she grew up to be super beautiful. But I hope you understand this is not about looks, this is about self-image, this is about inner state. And I spent over 20 years wondering what was it about this little girl, and now I think she's pure genius. And she's pure genius in the most important superpower we need in today's society, and this is self-love. She was an example of self-love, self-acceptance, at an age when everyone was so anxious about what others think about them, about how they look, and about all those things which are super important when you're 13, but are actually not so valuable just generally in life. And so I'm telling you this story because now, after so many years, I am amazed by Elena, and I think she was a real gem. Because at this early age, when everyone is so self-aware and so self-conscious, she was in a state of complete bliss. I believe she was completely in tune with her self-love and with her self-worth. And her self-image was one of perfection. This was not inflated ego. This was not self-advertising. This was not arrogance. This was pure self-love and bliss. And the reason why I start with this story is because I have two important messages for you. Confidence is a state. It's not something you say, it's not something you do, and definitely it's not loud. Confidence is developed or broken way before 13. I believe by the age of 7, 8, or 9, we are already there with our foundational self-image. And then, of course, comes high school to either completely break it or completely make it. But the point is that confidence is developed throughout childhood. And that's the time in our brain development when we are mostly in theta waves, when we're mostly in those subconscious waves in early childhood. And also our executive functions, the functions of the brain which make meaning and tell stories, are not developed. So to be perfectly honest with you, the foundation of confidence, or the grain of confidence, the nucleus of confidence, is in our body. And if we want to improve our confidence, I believe the path to do this is through our body. So this was my foundational story, and here I would like you to pause and just reflect on some questions. And these are the questions. How does your most confident self feel? You might close your eyes for a moment, pause this video, and just ask yourself this question. How does your most confident self feel like? How does your body feel? How do you move? What are the emotions that come from your most confident self? Also, I would like you to think of a moment in your experience when you were completely unaware of yourself. You were totally in whatever you were doing. Maybe you were dancing, maybe you were painting, maybe you were working, maybe you were cooking, maybe you were playing with your child. What is one occasion when you were so immersed in whatever it is that you were doing that you completely became unaware of yourself? And once you recall this episode, I just want you to recall, how are you feeling in your body? What were your emotions? And also, how are you interacting with the world around you? My third and last question for you is the following. If your most confident self was about to give a presentation in front of 1,000 people, how would they prepare and how would they deliver this presentation? Would they maybe over-prepare or completely improvise, or somewhere in the middle? How would they feel on stage? Would they enjoy it or would they be anxious? What topic would they choose if they had the choice to do any topic? Would it be a topic that you absolutely love or something completely new? So I want you to think about those questions because, as I mentioned before, here we're aiming for an operational understanding of confidence, not just intellectually knowing it, but understanding it through your whole self. And I also want you to reflect a bit about the Elena story. It's a bit controversial, and that's why I chose it, because it is controversial and it hits a lot of buttons. So, how do you think Elena managed to organize the entire summer hotel world around her? Because she was not self advertising and she was not completely immersed in speaking about herself. She was just flowing. So I want you to reflect on this as well. And next, we are going to talk about how is confidence manifesting in getting yourself funded if you're a startup owner, getting a promotion, getting a job, improving your skills, and of course, most importantly, performing in your team or as a manager or leader. Stay tuned. Before we continue, I would like to say that I've put together an ebook which contains guided visualizations and somatic exercises for improving confidence. And if you're interested in getting it, you can message me at info@vocaacademy.com or just comment below this video. Now, moving on to how is confidence manifested in business and in career. When I first started Voca Academy and I was searching for investors, to be very, very honest with you, I didn't believe in myself. Ironically, I did believe in the product because I had already tested it, as I mentioned, with focus groups, with control groups, and with a lot of research. But I did not believe in myself. Interestingly enough, I did get investment from 3 people, 3 individuals, and all of them were my clients. How did this happen? Well, when I was with them, I was not self-aware. When I was with them and delivering my services and then just mentioning that I'm looking for investors, I was totally myself. I was completely outside of the self-talk of, is this good enough? How much money should I ask? And each one of those individuals who have been my long-standing clients came to me. One was a corporate client, 2 were individual clients. So they came to me and they said, we love what you do. We believe it's scalable. We want to invest. But every time I went in front of an investment, I would try too hard. I would have a perfect presentation. I would have rehearsed it a lot. I would have like my armor and sound serious. And I remember I was at a workshop when I was presenting in front of investments, and there were those 2 guys who were about their 20s. Their idea was okay. I don't think it was great. It was not research. They had no design to their presentation. And actually, it was a very chaotic pitch. And I remember they were so much believing in whatever they were selling that one of the investors said, okay, guys, I see that you really believe in yourself. If you improve this, you can come to us as many times as you want, and eventually you might get funded. What happened is that within that cohort of people who presented, they were the only ones who came back. And rumor has it, they came back more than once, and they finally got funded. How many times do you think I came back? 0. And how many times did the other in the cohort came back? 0. But this is not something that you can fake, and it's not something that you can force. Is this underlying state of confidence? Another aspect where I see confidence manifested a lot when I work with my career clients is getting a job or getting a promotion. A lot of times this is related to some sort of an interaction, and I do see that people cannot fake or force again this interaction because they need to have this state of confidence first. And something else that I think it's crucial, it's getting your skills improved. I have worked with an individual who was a complete genius in his field. He was working in wind and solar energy, and I believe he had the potential to be very rich and very successful. However, he did have some communicational challenges, and interestingly enough, every time he received feedback from one of his colleagues, from one of his managers, or even from me as his coach, he would put up this wall and take it personally and just not work on it. And feedback, although sometimes it might not be delivered in the best way, is the greatest engine for growth. And there might be growth for your business or for your career you're not completely seeing. It could be a skill, it could be something else that you can improve. And this feedback can be the key to you improving, but you will never take it, internalize it, and use it properly if you take it personally and if you think it is attacking in any way your self-worth. And finally, when it comes to sales and marketing, I've seen that I'm doing marketing very inconsistently. But since I improved my confidence, it doesn't matter whether I do marketing or not, because it takes going to one event to get clients. And I don't sell myself, I don't market myself. When someone asks what I do, I just say it, but I say it with confidence and with full presence. And I believe that's what drives most of my clients. So this is how confidence is manifested in the career and business world. And now let's get to the formula. Self-love, self-worth, and self-image. Let us explore what this means and how you can improve it. So let's move to the formula of confidence: self-love, self-worth, and self-image. As I mentioned before, here we are aiming for an operational understanding of those concepts, which means not intellectually understand them, not be able to teach them to someone, but internalize them in a way so that you can change. While you're watching, I would like you to ask yourself two questions. Number one, how does this manifest in my life? And number two, what is the smallest change that I can do right after watching this video, something that I can stop doing, start doing, or change in order to live with more self-love, more self-worth, and improved self-image. Okay, let us begin with self-love. So much has been said and written about self-love that I would like us to approach this through a different angle. The angle that I find it's most useful and conducive to transformation, and this is the concept of the inner child. Regardless of whether you are a parent or not at the moment, I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine that you are a parent of a 6 or 7-year-old of the same sex of you. So if you're a woman, imagine you're a parent to a girl. If you're a man, imagine you're a parent to a boy. And I want you to imagine that this is you at age 7 or 6 or 7. So I know this sounds like a bit psychic, but yes, I want you to imagine that you are a parent of yourself as a child. And I would like you to explore 3 different scenarios and how you can approach those scenarios with self-love. The first one is the Burger King scenario. So your child has had a very tough week. They've been through a talent show, they didn't go well. They've had a tough week at preschool or school or kindergarten, whatever. They had a fight with a friend. Life is not just going so well in this child's life this week, and they want Burger King. What do you say? Do you say yes or do you say no? If you say yes, that's okay. If you say no, that's also okay. But let's imagine that the next day the child wants Burger King as well. Do you say yes or do you say no? Okay, maybe you can say yes for the second time, but imagine that your child wants to eat only Burger King every day. Here is where self-love comes into play. First of all, if you really love your child, you understand that feeding them Burger King every single day is not good for them. Definitely not good. Once, maybe okay. Twice, probably okay. But every day, not okay. How do you approach this with self-love? First, let's see how do you approach this without self-love. So approaching this without self-love is yelling at the child, no, you cannot eat Burger King. You need to be healthy. Come on. Stop with this tantrum. I'm not going to buy you Burger King. You're going to eat your broccoli. That's not self-love. But you can react with self-love. Oh, honey, maybe you had a tough day. Oh, maybe your week wasn't great. Tell me more. Tell me how you're feeling. You don't want to speak about your feelings? Okay. What do you want to tell me? Talk to me. You know what? We cannot have Burger King today, because it's not good for your tummy and it's not good for your body. But I promise I will make you feel better. So let's see what is something that it's not Burger King that can make you feel better. Approaching life with self-love means that you have your best interest at heart. And sometimes your best interest is not Burger King, it's not alcohol, and it's not Netflix. However, The craving for those things comes from a need within you that it's not been satisfied. So approaching life with self-love is understanding what is the underlying need, what it is that your body, mind, and soul needs in this moment, and how can you satisfy this need in a healthy way. This in itself is the art of living, and it's not super easy. So we had the first scenario of Burger King, where we approached with self-love, acting from the best interest of the child, but also communicating to them with self-love, compassion, and really wanting to hear how they feel. Now let's move to the second scenario. So the second scenario is the talent show. Your kid was on a talent show and they didn't do so great. Just before they came up on stage, there was this girl who danced just like Shakira. She had those moves, amazing. She was ready for America Got Talent or Universe Got Talent, so good. And then there was this boy who sang just like Mick Jagger. He was so good. He sang so well like Mick Jagger or Ed Sheeran, like a real star. And then on stage comes up your child, and they're not so good. They're not really memorable, and they kind of mess up. They've rehearsed, but they mess up. And this is probably one of the worst performances on the talent show. What do you do after the talent show? Here is how you can approach this with and without self-love. So you can go to your child and say, honey, you are the best. You are truly the best. You were marvelous. I loved your performance. You are better than everybody else. Well, maybe the judges didn't see that. Maybe the public didn't see it. Maybe the audience was too bad, but you were the best. Honestly, this is not approaching the situation with self-love, because lying to yourself or lying to your kid is not love. The second way you can approach this is, all right, buddy, this wasn't so good, right? It wasn't great. Okay, now let's analyze why this wasn't so good. Let's break this down. Did you practice at home? Did you practice feeling calm on stage? Did you rehearse? Is this your real talent? Are you motivated to work on this? Okay, if I have to be honest, your performance actually sucked. This is not self-love either. Here is how you approach this with self-love. Honey, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? Listen, I want to tell you something really important, and I need you to listen to me. I know right now you might be a bit nervous and anxious about your performance, but there is something very important, and I really want you to listen to me. Okay, are you listening? Can you do that for me? Can you listen to me? I want to say that I love you so much. Today, watching you on stage, I realized that you're the most important person in my life. I love you unconditionally. And I really want to know, how are you feeling right now? I saw that your performance wasn't great, but there is something even more important that I want to tell you, something that trumps everything. I love you no matter what. And right now, I need to know, how are you feeling? Do you want a Burger King? All right, only tonight, and then we're back to broccoli, so only tonight. Okay, honey. Now, do you want to talk about this talent? Is this your true talent? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel motivated? No? Oh, baby, how do you feel about us together exploring which is your talent? Something that feels so good and so inspired that you totally don't care about the performance. How would that feel, okay? But I want you to know that I love you. Okay, I just want you to see the difference. And I just want you to realize how many times you are not talking to yourself and not treating yourself in this way. I believe the inner child metaphor is the best one to understand to what extent you're practicing self-love, because most of the times when you screw up, you're either in delusion mode saying, oh, I'm the best, they don't understand anything, or in self-criticism mode, how could you do this, you suck, versus self-love mode, which is first and foremost loving yourself, hugging yourself, seeing what is the need that you need to satisfy in this moment, and then being honest with yourself. This didn't go well. What can we do better? So this is the second scenario, the talent show. And the third scenario is having an argument with a child when your child actually hit the other child and they broke the nose of the other child. Ugly. How do you go about this? Again, if you go without self-love, you start yelling, you say you're grounded for life, you're yelling, you're telling them you're so bad, you're arrogant, nothing will come out of you. This is a reaction without self-love. The self-love reaction is asking, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling when you hit that child? What is that it's hurting within you? And saying, I love you. I truly love you, but what you did is not okay. And it's not okay not just because of this other kid. It's not okay because it means there is something within you that is hurting, and the right way to fix it, it's not by hitting other people. This is how you react with self-love. Okay, so we have the Burger King example, the talent show example, and the hitting another child example. And what we can draw as a conclusion about self-love is that self-love begins with, first and foremost, acknowledging that you love yourself unconditionally. There are no conditions for you loving yourself, regardless of how you're performing, of what have you done. Even if you've hit and hurt someone, you are unconditionally loving yourself. Number one. Number two, you want to understand what is that need, what is the need beyond the emotion or behind the emotion or below the emotion. What is the need that wants to be satisfied, which is why you hit a child, or which is why you want Burger King, or maybe which is why you didn't rehearse for the talent show. And the third element is acknowledging that you are not your performance, you are not your outcomes, and you're not your results. You love yourself unconditionally, and at the same time, you're excited, you're eager to improve on a certain skill, on a certain performance, or in certain area of your life. But this need for improvement doesn't define your self-worth, and it doesn't define your self-love. So self-love is unconditional. And here I want to leave you with something to ponder. Discipline is the greatest form of self-love. Now, moving to self-worth, I believe I already made that connection that your inner worth, it's not related to your performance. So I believe people have a healthy feeling of self-worth when they're able to love themselves, to accept themselves, and at the same time acknowledge what is it that they need to improve. Self-delusion, it's not a healthy self-worth. People who are making mistake after mistake and are not owning their mistakes, or people who are performing really poorly but believe that everyone else is against them, this is why things are not turning out so great, are not people who have deep feeling of self-worth. Deep feeling of self-worth manifests in you feeling great about yourself no matter what, and at the same time embracing the process of improvement, loving it. When you fall in love with the process and not the results, you are acting from a deep sense of self-worth, because loving the results, it's seeking validation for your worth. Loving the process is already acknowledging your worth and walking towards something that you love and improving towards a goal that it's meaningful for you from a process of self-worth. And I know at this point you're going to ask, okay, I understand this, but how? How do I develop self-love and self-worth? And we are going to get there. But before we do, let us explore the third element of the confidence formula. We talked about self-love, self-worth, and now we're going to talk about self-image. Self-image is a constellation of unconscious beliefs which are deeply ingrained in our subconscious mind about who we are, what we deserve, and what is attainable for us. Something that most people don't understand is that most of this happens beneath the level of consciousness. It's not like waking up and thinking, I'm not good enough for this promotion. It's not like walking to the supermarket and thinking, I will never get clients because I'm not good enough. On the contrary, a lot of times your self-talk is not a direct reflection of your self-image. However, a lot of the times when you're not getting something, it's because of your self-image. And you can see this manifested in people who built billion-dollar companies, who built unicorn companies, and they start with getting 100 no's or a 40 no's. And I once heard of such a founder. Actually, I heard about this on an event that I was last week, of a founder who got 40 times no. And he was not even the creator of the intellectual property of his company. He gathered around people who created the value, but he was the one who had the self-image of becoming an owner of a billion-dollar company, and so he's the one who took the company forward. So your self-image, it's kind of the software that operates on the background of your mind and drives almost all of your results. Now, self-image alone cannot generate results or cannot help you attain your goals or achieve your dreams. However, if your self-image is not aligned with your dreams and goals, most probably you're going to achieve them much harder and much slower. So we can sit here and talk about self-image for hours and still nothing will change. So when it comes to self-image, there is one activity that I want you to do right now as you're listening or right after this video. And I believe this is everything you need to understand about your current state of your self-image, but also everything you need to start working on to improve it. Ready? You will need a pen and paper, and you are going to draw a mind map on the paper. So in the center of the mind map, I want you to write some keywords about your dreams. Maybe your dream career, your dream business, your dream relationship. At this point, it doesn't matter, just keywords. It could be a financial goal or dream, but something that you really wish to experience and you wish to have in your life. But don't write like a full paragraph, you won't have space for it. Just in the center, write some keywords about your dreams. Now, I want you to imagine that you are the person who is living this dream, who has this income, this relationship, this career, this business, but not imagine it as an intellectual activity or as an intellectual exercise. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the person who is living that dream. And in order to do that, I want to propose you an activity or an approach to this. So think of yourself as an actor who is going to play the role of the person who is living that dream. So you're going to play this role, which means that in the next days or in the next moments, you need to start thinking about your character, the character that you're going to play. So in the center of your worksheet or of your sheet, you have keywords about your dream. And now, in order to make this more than an intellectual exercise, you're going to pretend you will be an actor playing the person living that dream. And I want you to write in the top corner, one of the corners, it doesn't matter which one, what are the 4 or 5 qualities the person living that dream has. The character you're going to play, what are the qualities they have? Then in the next corner of the worksheet or of the sheet that you're using, I want you to write what are the states and emotions this person is in while he or she is living the dream. So you're going to protagonize, you're going to play this character. What are their qualities, but how do they feel? How do they feel on a daily basis? How do they feel when they wake up? How do they feel when things go wrong? How do they feel when they don't see results right away? What is their state in both victory and defeat? What is their emotional state? Okay, so you have your dream, you have the qualities of the person who is living that dream, you have the emotional states of the person who is living that dream, and now in the bottom corner, again, it doesn't mean which one, I want you to write 2 or 3 micro habits that this person has, things that they do. What is that they do? But I want you to approach this as an actor who is going to win an Oscar. Don't just make this an intellectual activity. Research this, think about it, get into the character. Okay, so maybe your dream is to be an owner of $1 billion business, and you think that the habit of this person is to exercise. Okay, maybe, but is this the key or the most important habit? So what are the 2 or 3 micro habits that this person has in the bottom corner? And then in the final corner, what are ways in which this person treats others? What are ways in which they treat others? And again, I want you to think about this as someone who is going to play this character, who is going to live the dream. So maybe you think, oh, they will be kind, they will be cooperative. But the truth might be that they're somewhat arrogant, or people who say no. Now, I'm not advertising arrogance. The only thing that I want to say here is that a lot of times when people turn this into an intellectual activity rather than an embodied activity, they just come up with things which are not realistic. Now, the reason why we do this activity about self-image is because in working with over 400 individual clients, I have had people sit over there where usually my clients sit, and they might well have a PhD in psychology. They understand self-image, they understand limiting beliefs, they understand trauma, they understand anything, everything, and yet anything is still the same. So they have the intellectual understanding, but the results are the same. This is why in this moment, I do not want us to over-analyze and over-intellectualize self-image. I want us to do something super simple, but also very practical, useful, and powerful. I want us to explore what is the dream and what is the self-image which is related to that dream. And then there is just one thing that I want you to do. You have the qualities, you have the emotions, you have the micro habits, and you have the way you treat others. I want you to focus on one thing, only one thing, and start embodying it. It could be an emotion. Now, I must say that emotions are the hardest, because how do you embody an emotion? So I would really suggest that you either pick embodying a quality, a micro habit, or ways of treating others, and the emotions will come. But I also want you to keep this sheet somewhere where you can see it, and find micro ways each day in which you're going to live according to that self-image. I believe that a lot of the transformational work, such as working with your inner child, working with limiting beliefs, helps. But I also think that probably the most powerful thing for change is to start acting in new ways, because this is how you rewire your brain. So when it comes to self-image, this is the one activity that I want you to do. And you can put this sheet somewhere and start looking at it. So we've gotten to the most important part. How do we live with more self-love, more self-worth, and develop better self-image? Now for the self-image, I directly gave you the activity. Anything that I say in this video won't make sense unless you do it repeatedly. This is why in the description of the video, you're going to find your roadmap to building self-confidence with the 3 S's: self-love, self-worth, and self-image. You're going to find activities related to somatic work, to body work, which will help you act with more self-love, connect to your unconditional self-worth, and improve your self-image. You can download it and start working on it. And if you wish to go on a transformational journey, you can do that with me either on an individual or online program, and you're going to find more information about that below. It has been a pleasure being with you. Wait a little bit more, because there's one more thing that I need to tell you. Okay, so far we explored the story of Elena, a 13-year-old girl who embodies self-love, self-worth, and has a self-image which makes people fall in love with her. Everyone, boys, girls, adults, everyone just wants to be around her. Then we discussed how is confidence manifested in different career and business scenarios. And we went through the formula of confidence: self-love, self-worth, and self-image. And we discussed 3 powerful examples for the self-love part of how you can become a parent of your inner child, and how you can start treating yourself with more love and more empathy. And I mentioned that below this video, you have a worksheet, which is a roadmap for you to improve your confidence. Now, there is one last thing that I want to tell you. Your confidence, your self-image, the way you treat yourself has been built over years, exposed to experience, sometimes at moments when your brain couldn't even make sense of those experiences. This doesn't happen overnight. It did not happen for a day, 2, or a week. So if your baseline confidence level has been built for at least 7 years, do you think you can transform it in one day? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've never seen it. I think it takes time. And when we speak about confidence in terms of charisma, in terms of persuasion, in terms of marketing or sales, I believe those are the top layers of confidence. But when we speak about the first principle of confidence, this is self-love, self-worth, and self-image. And this has been developed over years of experience, sometimes not very pleasant, and sometimes maybe even experience you don't remember. And it cannot be transformed overnight, which is why I have developed a transformational journey called the Personal Transformation Path, which helps you work on your beliefs, self-image, confidence, pretty much everything that is driving you from within, but it's always or almost always beneath the conscious mind. And if you're interested to get to know more about this program, you can message me at info@vocaacademy.com. And before you leave, please comment which was the most useful part for you of this video, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you for being with me. This has been a pleasure, and I hope to see you next time.